I never thought a jacket could change everything. But there I was, standing at Sarah's bonfire party, trying not to shiver while pretending I was totally fine in just a t-shirt. Classic guy move, right? It was one of those October nights where the temperature drops the second the sun goes down, and I'd made the brilliant decision to leave my coat in the car because I didn't want to look like I was trying too hard. Spoiler alert, I was definitely trying too hard. The fire was crackling in Sarah's backyard, throwing shadows across maybe 20 people I half knew from college. I was nursing a beer I didn't really want, mostly using it as something to do with my hands. That's when I saw her for the first time that night. Emma. She was standing on the other side of the fire, and the flames caught her face in this warm glow that made her look like she belonged in some indie film about beautiful, complicated people having meaningful conversations under the stars. I'd seen her around campus before. We had mutual friends, the kind of overlap where you end up at the same parties but never quite find the right moment to actually talk. She was in the creative writing program, I think, always carrying these worn notebooks with coffee stains on the covers, the kind of girl who seemed to exist in her own world, and you weren't sure if you were allowed to visit. Another gust of wind hit, and I couldn't stop the shiver this time. I pulled my arms tighter across my chest, which probably made me look even more pathetic. I was about to give up and head to my car for that jacket when I heard her voice behind me. "You're cold." It wasn't a question. I turned around, and Emma was standing there, closer than I expected, holding what looked like a vintage denim jacket with a fleece lining. Her own jacket, the one she'd been wearing when she arrived. "I'm fine," I said automatically, because that's what guys do. We freeze to death before we admit weakness. She gave me this look. Not quite a smile, but something in her eyes that said she saw right through my bullshit. "You're literally shaking," she said, "and your lips are turning purple. Very punk rock, but probably not the vibe you're going for." I laughed despite myself. I left my jacket in the car. Seemed like too much commitment to bring it. "Commitment to what? Being warm?" She stepped closer, and I caught the scent of her perfume, something floral but not overwhelming. "Here," she said, and before I could protest again, she was holding the jacket up. Arms out. "What are you doing?" "Putting this on you. Unless you want to keep doing the tough guy routine, which honestly isn't working because you look like a lost puppy right now." There was something about the way she said it. Not mean, but teasing in a way that felt intimate, like we'd known each other longer than we had. I stood there, frozen for a different reason now, as she moved behind me. "Arms," she said again, and this time I obeyed. She guided the jacket onto my shoulders, and I slipped my arms through the sleeves. Her hands lingered for just a second on my shoulders, adjusting the collar, smoothing the fabric. It was such a simple gesture, but it felt impossibly personal. The jacket was still warm from her body, and it smelled like her. That same perfume mixed with something else I couldn't quite place. Maybe just her. "There," she said, coming back around to face me. "Much better. You look almost human now." The jacket was slightly small on me, tight across the shoulders, but I didn't care. I felt wrapped in something more than just fabric. "Won't you be cold?" I asked. She shrugged, pulling her sweater sleeves down over her hands. "I've got layers. Plus, I'm closer to the fire." She gestured to a log near the flames. "Come on, you're blocking the heat from everyone else standing over here like a statue." We sat down, and somehow the noise of the party seemed to fade into background static. Emma pulled her knees up to her chest, resting her chin on them as she stared into the fire. "I'm Michael, by the way," I said, "in case you were wondering who you just clothed." "I know who you are," she said, glancing at me sideways. "You're in Dr. Morrison's philosophy class. You always sit in the back row by the window and doodle in your notebook when you think no one's watching." I felt heat rise to my face that had nothing to do with the bonfire. You noticed that? I notice a lot of things. She poked at the fire with a stick someone had left nearby. You're pretty good, actually. The doodles. I saw them once when I walked past your desk. These intricate geometric patterns. Very meditative. I had no idea what to say to that. No one had ever paid attention to my absent-minded sketching before. It was just something I did to help me think, to process the philosophical concepts Morrison threw at us. I'm Emma, she said, even though I already knew. And before you ask, yes, I'm the one who argued with Morrison about free will for like 40 minutes last week. That was incredible, I said, the words coming out before I could stop them. You completely dismantled his deterministic argument. I wanted to applaud. She smiled then, a real smile that transformed her whole face. You should have. I could have used the support. Instead, I just looked like the annoying girl who won't let things go. No, I said firmly. You looked like someone who actually cares about the ideas. Most people in that class are just checking boxes for their Gen Ed requirements. You actually give a shit. She turned to look at me fully then, and I felt pinned by her gaze. The firelight danced in her eyes, and I realized they were green. A deep forest green that seemed to hold secrets. What about you? She asked. Why are you in that class? You're a psychology major, right? How did you know that? I told you. I notice things. She nudged my shoulder with hers. So why philosophy? I thought about giving her the easy answer, the one I told my advisor. Something about understanding human thought and behavior, requiring a foundation in philosophical inquiry. But sitting there in her jacket, with her actually looking at me like my answer mattered, I found myself telling the truth. I think I'm trying to figure out who I'm supposed to be, I said. Psychology tells you how people work, but philosophy asks why we work that way, why we make the choices we make, whether any of it even matters. I paused, feeling suddenly exposed. Sorry, that probably sounds pretentious. No, she said softly. It sounds honest, which is rarer than you'd think. We sat in silence for a moment, watching the flames consume another log. Someone had put music on, something acoustic and melancholy that fit the October night perfectly. Can I tell you something? Emma said, her voice quieter now. I saw you at Sarah's last party, the one in September. You were standing on the porch, and you had this look on your face like you were trying to decide whether to stay or go. I almost came over to talk to you then, but I chickened out. My heart did something complicated in my chest. Why? She laughed, but it sounded nervous. Because you seemed like the kind of person who might actually see me, you know, and that's terrifying. I understood exactly what she meant. There was something about Emma that felt significant, like she was the kind of person who could change the trajectory of your life if you let her, and that was terrifying. I'm glad you didn't chicken out tonight, I said. Well, you were turning into a popsicle. It was basically a humanitarian mission. She was deflecting with humor again, but I could see something vulnerable in her expression. Is that the only reason? She met my eyes, and for a long moment, neither of us said anything. The party continued around us, people laughing and talking and living their lives, but we existed in our own bubble. No, she finally said. That's not the only reason. Someone called her name from across the yard, one of her friends, waving her over. Emma waved back, but didn't move. I should probably go be social, she said, but she didn't sound like she wanted to. Keep the jacket, she added, standing up. You can give it back to me later. When's later? She smiled, and it was the kind of smile that promised something. I guess you'll have to figure that out. You've got my jacket, so I know you can't ghost me. I wouldn't ghost you, I said, standing up too. Good. She reached out and fixed the collar of the jacket again, even though it didn't need fixing. Her fingers brushed against my neck, and I felt that touch everywhere. "It looks better on you anyway." She walked away then, back toward her friends, and I stood there like an idiot, watching her go. The jacket felt like armor and a promise all at once. I didn't leave the party for another 2 hours, but I spent most of that time acutely aware of where Emma was. Not in a creepy way, just in a way where I was always conscious of her presence, like she'd become magnetic and I was caught in her field. Every time I laughed at someone's joke or pretended to be interested in someone else's conversation, part of my attention was tracking her movements, the sound of her laugh, the way she talked with her hands. Around midnight, people started filtering out. I was helping Sarah collect empty bottles when Emma appeared beside me again. "Walk me to my car?" she asked. "Of course." We walked in comfortable silence down the driveway. Her car was parked at the end of the street, under a streetlight that flickered like it was trying to set a mood. "So," she said, leaning against her car door. "The jacket." "Right." I started to shrug it off, but she stopped me. "Keep it for now," she said, "but I want it back, which means you need to see me again." My heart was doing gymnastics. "When?" "Tomorrow. There's this coffee shop downtown, the Grounded Bean. Terrible name, great coffee. Meet me there at 2? "I'll be there." "Good." She unlocked her car, then paused. "Michael, I'm really glad you were cold tonight." I laughed. "Yeah, me too." She drove away, and I stood there under the flickering streetlight, wearing her jacket, feeling like something fundamental had shifted in my universe. The next day, I showed up at the Grounded Bean at 1:45, because apparently I'm the kind of person who arrives early when I'm nervous. Emma walked in at exactly 2, wearing a different jacket, this one oversized and army green. She spotted me in the corner booth and smiled. "You came," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. "Did you think I wouldn't?" "I thought you might wake up and realize you don't actually know me, and this was all very forward of me." "It was forward," I agreed. "I liked it." We ordered coffee, and then we talked. Really talked. Not the surface-level getting-to-know-you conversation, but the deep stuff. She told me about growing up in a small town in Montana, about feeling like she never quite fit anywhere until she found writing, about how she was terrified she wasn't good enough, that her stories were just self-indulgent nonsense that no one would ever want to read. I told her about my parents' divorce when I was 12, about how I became obsessed with understanding why people hurt each other, why love wasn't enough sometimes, about how I chose psychology because I wanted to fix things, to make sense of the chaos. Hours passed. The coffee shop started to empty out, the barista giving us pointed looks as closing time approached. Emma glanced at her phone and her eyes widened. "It's almost 6. We've been here for 4 hours. Felt like 20 minutes. She smiled that smile again, the one that made my chest tight. "I should probably give you a chance to return my jacket now." "What if I want to keep it a little longer?" "Then I guess I'll have to see you again." She stood up, and I followed her out into the early evening. The sun was setting, painting the sky in oranges and pinks. We stood on the sidewalk, neither of us quite ready to say goodbye. Finally, Emma reached out and took my hand, just held it, her fingers intertwining with mine. "This feels important," she said quietly, "like we're starting something that matters. Is that crazy? If it is, we're both crazy." She squeezed my hand. "I can live with that." That was 6 months ago. I'm wearing her jacket right now, actually. She never did take it back. Said it was mine now, that it had found its proper home. We joke that it's our origin story, the jacket that started everything. But the truth is, it wasn't really about the jacket. It was about someone seeing that I was cold and caring enough to do something about it. It was about her putting it on me herself, that intimate gesture that said, I see you, I've been seeing you, and I'm not afraid to step into your space. It was about her taking a chance on a guy who doodled in philosophy class and looked like a lost puppy at parties. Sometimes the most significant moments in our lives come disguised as simple acts of kindness. A jacket at a bonfire, a girl brave enough to approach, a conversation that turns into 4 hours, that turn into 6 months, that turn into whatever comes next. I still have trouble with vulnerability, still default to saying I'm fine when I'm not. But Emma's teaching me that it's okay to be cold sometimes, to need someone, to let someone take care of you. And in return, I'm learning to be the person who notices when she's struggling, who steps into her space with the same gentle confidence she showed me. The jacket hangs in my closet now, but I wear it sometimes when I miss her, when we're apart and I need to feel close to her. It still smells like her perfume, even though I've worn it dozens of times. Maybe that's the thing about meaningful objects. They hold on to the memory of the moment they became significant. So yeah, she lent me her jacket at a bonfire, put it on me herself. And in doing so, she gave me permission to stop pretending I had it all together. She showed me that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit you're cold and let someone warm you up. And maybe that's what love is in the end. Someone noticing what you need before you ask for it. Someone caring enough to step close and offer you their warmth. Someone seeing through your tough guy routine and calling you out with kindness instead of judgment. I'm meeting Emma in an hour, actually. We're going to another bonfire, different house, different season. Spring this time, but the nights still get cold. I'm bringing her jacket with me, the one that's supposedly mine now. I think I might give it back to her tonight, put it on her myself, return the gesture that started everything. Or maybe I'll keep it a little longer. After all, it's our story now, woven into the fabric along with her perfume and my gratitude and the memory of that October night when I was cold and someone cared. Either way, I know this much is true. I'll never take warmth for granted again. And I'll never underestimate the power of a simple act of tenderness, offered at exactly the right moment, by exactly the right person. Sometimes all it takes is a jacket and someone brave enough to put it on you themselves.